Yat A, this is Delegate Amber Canisbach Kradi, Kia Ani Nishle, do Bilagana Bashis Chin, Deschini Deshache, do Bilagana Deshanella. I just wanted to use this time this morning, and I realized after lengthy discussions that there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to the federal ARPA money that Navajo Nation has received. So it's nearly over $2 billion. Council is considering a legislation 0257-21. It is going to allocate just over $1 billion. And so as we look at this legislation, I'm looking at how has the public been informed? What type of conversations do we need to have? And most importantly, what questions do you have? I sit on the Budget and Finance Committee representing Northern Agency. And so at this last Northern Agency meeting, they helped and supported an amendment where we could divide the money equitably between the 24 legislative districts. Why that is important? Because there's really never been an equity formula for Navajo Nation. When it comes to direct chapter funding, we use something called the 50-50 formula. So 50% is distributed among the 110 chapters. The remaining 50% is distributed based on registered voters. So it's very important if you are Navajo and over the age of 18 to register with your home chapter. That is how money is allocated to support your chapter projects, your scholarships, housing discretionary, and how they provide direct service and empowering local governance. But back to this legislation, we were looking at, as a council, how this money was being allocated. And so 3 areas of concern. The first one was there was these numbers put together. So for example, water was given, I think, about $300 million, broadband, another allocation. And I asked the question, how were these numbers developed? Does this mean these are all the projects that are first eligible for ARPA, which means they'll meet the construction timeframe of 2026? And as we started looking at, let's say for water, I know that I found in my district, we had more water projects that were eligible and were not on the listing. So we're working on an amendment to get those water projects on there. And these are critical water projects that have been in the planning stages for over a decade. And so the second area is the concern in terms of what is our capacity to build up all of these projects. Sitting on the Budget and Finance, we've seen that there's been allocations of money or approvals of money last July. And it was not until maybe a few weeks ago that this money was actually made available to the recipients to start with the project, start constructing the projects. So that's an internal Navajo Nation issue. How can we fix our internal system so that we're effective and that we can get more local community-based projects that have a regional impact and getting them through the system? And so many chapters can tell you the scary tales of trying to get projects approved through the internal process, the amount of time and energy it takes to get these budgets set up, and then the time and energy it takes to expend. And so we really need to look at how to decentralize project management, and also looking at how can we incorporate and create opportunities for Navajo-owned businesses who want to be those consultants, those planners, project managers who want to help the chapters across Navajo Nation reach their goal to provide community service projects. And the third area is just, so for example, I can only speak on my district, District 12 of 7 chapters. There has not been enough engagement at the chapter level to explain what are on these legislations. And so there's language in this legislation that states all of the agencies, all of the chapters have been notified, and they're properly informed on what's in the legislation. I don't see any evidence of that. We're still educating, we're still sending out information, we're still cross-referencing what projects were submitted to the Department of Community Development portal, then from the portal, were they submitted to the U.S. or to Navajo Nation Department of Justice for eligibility, which is now required through the process. And so there is a lot of internal questions, and we're looking at the amount of money that was allocated to administer this funding. How has that system in the last 8 months have really created an effective pathway? And so we're monitoring hardship on how hardship is being distributed, and we're looking at the $1 million of budget that our executive programs received, and I'm looking at how they're using those dollars, and I don't see any movement. I see a very small amount of funding that was allocated to expedite these projects are being used. So the programs will say, well, it's an internal Navajo issue. And so that's what we have control of as leadership. And so as we get ready for this Wednesday's conversation, we're going to make sure that this funding is being used to expedite the process, expedite the projects, and also how can we capacity build in your communities and in a regionalized way. I'm sure you have students, college students, community members who have extensive knowledge in project management that want to be part of the solution. And if we just keep all of this in Window Rock, then we never expand the capacity in our communities. And I think it's time to move forward in that direction. If there's limited housing or if the salary is low, then at a regional level, we can have the opportunity to then pull in those additional resources, partner with our local nonprofits, counties, local cities who want to support and know the challenges that we have here on Navajo, and want to look into the issues like housing, multi-generational families living in crowded homes that spread COVID. What do we do when there's solid waste issue and how that contaminates our water, it impacts our livestock, and it creates mental harm? And what's our community health response? How are we going to, come out of this pandemic mentally strong? And so how do we support our relatives who need additional support when it comes to substance abuse, when it comes to just dealing with everyday anxiety, and looking at what are some of the areas that are affecting our Navajo families, as the price of gas and the price of food. We're reading and getting reports from worldwide organizations that now this war in Russia is holding on to wheat, holding on to corn, and that there's possibility of an increase in food. So how are we as a Navajo Nation using all of the tools that we have, using our collective experience, creating more opportunities for our farmers to farm, grow our own food? How are we using our enterprises who collectively can provide a lot of resources and can help Navajo Nation during this time of ARPA, which is a COVID response, and looking at the infrastructure bill and looking at some of the other federal funding that's coming in. So it's a large discussion. I just kind of wanted to provide you a primer. Not everyone is interested, and that's okay. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of coordination. But I just wanted to invite you into how myself as a delegate, I'm looking at this issue. And so I'm preparing for a bi-monthly call with NTUA Broadband. And we invited the Navajo Nation Fiscal Recovery Fund program to provide some insight in terms of what is the process, how do you become eligible, and then how do you develop your expenditure plan, and what does that look like? So that's important to note. I just want to make sure that you guys are all doing well. Some of our students are returning from spring break, and as we celebrate this change of season and we have more daylight, let's use that to our benefit. Let's use that to pray, to heal, to be kind to one another. Let's use today as a day that we can move beyond some of these whether it's a family feud, whether it's a disagreement, today's a good day just to move on and to pray for that person, pray for yourself, and pray for our children who are navigating this. And as we continue to check on our elders, we know that they're going to need additional help when it comes to, just the cost of propane, the cost of traveling, the cost of providing additional support for their families. So let's be that person for one another, and also take time to get yourself that self-care. Take a big breath. Know that you're worth it. Know that you're doing your best. And also, what I have found is if we reduce judgment on others, then we have more time to focus on ourselves and our own healing. So be well. Talk to you soon. Hagonet.